I think, George, you're getting a message from Eric.
I want to stay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear us? She can't.
I can't hear you.
All right, something to do with the access. We're both on access. I don't know what it is. Jared,
I don't know.
Jared does change something, but I don't know what he does. All right, get the fuck out of here.
Hey, go grab a cup of coffee.
Let's go.
Great. Welcome, one and all, to the Von Haessler Doctrine special edition of the Pre-show 60 with Mr. Lovable and Huggable himself, Eric Von Haessler. Doctrinaire Greg Russ is joining us. Autumn Fisher might pop in here for a second. We're not sure. Could get a surprise. George Clark and me, I'm your host, Devin Pappas. Glad you could join us.
I'm guessing that Autumn Fisher will not be joining us because we just tried for about 8 minutes to make that happen. And, at a certain point, I mean, Steph, and I know that you are the nominal host of these pre-show segments, and this being a special Skankfest special edition, number 2 of the pre-show, but
that's number 2.
Every once in a while, the host of the Von Haessler Doctrine has to step in and say, "That's just enough. She has to go. She didn't bring her technological A game." And just because we are recording these on the weekends, I don't want people thinking, "Oh, we can get all loosey goosey." No, you don't bring your technological A game to the Skankfest Special Edition Podcast 60. Guess what? You're not on the Skankfest.
If only she were here to hear those admonitions, that would have been great. But then again, she's not. But I was teasing that she might join us. Maybe catch a couple more streamers. That hey, Autumn's going to be here. But okay,
a little eye candy. Is that what you want?
Yeah,
a little eye candy. George is the eye candy. All right.
I will say, the few instances I've done the podcast that I do with Autumn, one topic alone, she's not there, it really doesn't get nearly as many listeners. It blows my mind because I will say I think it's probably better when I do it myself. But for whatever reason, she's still a draw. Autumn is still a pull.
No, hold on. Wait a minute. I sense trouble on the set of one topic. It seems to me like maybe back that, they present this unified front to the world. It's like, Donnie and Marie 2023. But I sense in those comments that maybe behind the scenes, a little bit of friction going on. Did you hear what the man just said? He said he believes that first of all, he hates the audience. He thinks they don't really understand what a good podcast is. That's what he's alone. But it's all about Autumn, apparently. You know what? Why don't you change the name of the podcast from one topic to
one
all
host.
about Autumn?
Or one topic, one voice.
It's
one voice.
It's difficult to do a show alone, and I settled into a groove where it is quite stream of consciousness, but I think it's cohesive enough. And I do 30 minutes. I don't do a full hour, and I'm usually pretty proud of it after the fact. And you know how hard I am on myself. I usually think everything I do sucks. So to feel that way, it's like, yeah, I'm feeling good about that. Then you go look at the numbers. You're like, what the hell? Why is...
Yeah, it upsets you, doesn't it?
It does.
Maybe it's that people don't come for the monologue. Now, what about when she does a show by herself? Do the numbers maintain? Or is it might be about, hey, I tune into this and I expect a little back and forth, a little bit of that whole Fleetwood Mac weird thing. They've known each other a long time. They had sex for a couple of years. That's over. There's a certain kind of tension that only that backstory can bring. And it might be. That's what people are looking for when they tune in.
That's a fair question. I will say that the few instances that she has done it alone, I didn't dare look. I could, because if those numbers were the same or better, I wouldn't be able to handle it. So I didn't even look, and I never even listened to an episode that she did alone because I can only imagine.
George Clark, after Skankfest, I want you to dig into those numbers, and we will present them on a future show. And we'll know the numbers before we reveal them to Greg. So if they're too bad, we will work out, some sort of teledoc.
I'll get to the bottom of the Autumn factor.
Yes, absolutely. We want to know exactly how much Greg is bringing to the one topic audience and Autumn, or is it both of them that are needed? Is it my vision, or is it my camera all kind of gooey?
It's your vision.
It's
my
from
vision,
when
the camera, all right?
it's when you put masking tape across the lens when you're looking at porn, so that they don't activate the lens. Right.
Well, I put masking tape over the lens at all times because as I get older, I'm getting paranoid. It's just sitting in my office. Like I think about, like, I'm getting too old and slow to even have like Daredevil things in my mind. I'm just thinking like, hey, somebody could be watching me. You watched this screen over here. It's like, I don't know. I feel weird. You just know that the technology does exist. We know this. The technology does exist, that people can turn your camera on without the light coming on. And I know that it's like probably 1 in 95. Who knows how many people they do it to? But it's just the knowledge that the technology exists. It's like, I don't have it's weird. Like, I don't have, I feel weird if people see me doing mundane things, you know, like just like schlepping about, you know, like I remember one time when Instagram first started, I didn't realize that it wasn't exactly like other social media stuff. I was sitting on my couch upstairs and I didn't realize that to start it, at least then it was all photos. Like, so I thought I was taking like a picture of me on the couch upstairs, everything perfectly fine, all American, Norman Rockwell sitting on the couch. And I thought I was taking a profile pic to put on the thing, and it actually published immediately. And I was just sitting on the couch and it creeped me out so much. I just ended the account. Like, oh, that's weird. Like there was no in between thing that said, hey, do you want to publish? And it's just like, I don't want people like seeing, I don't know. It's weird.
At least you're presenting yourself. At least,
I don't want candid shots.
I think that's fine then. The way people do curate their Instagram feeds, it's refreshing just to see a person lying around, lounging on the couch.
I had a bad experience with my phone, and this wasn't like something I think outside coming in, but I had bought a big screen TV, and so I handed my phone to my wife because my kids were helping me to move it and stuff, and so we're kind of taking it down the steps. Great, so she got the shot, and I put the phone in my pocket, and I pulled my phone out of my pocket, and apparently just like the movement in my pocket had pressed some buttons and stuff, and it actually posted the video onto Instagram, and I had no intention of sharing that with people. It's like, oh, hey, look at me, I'm not one of those people who takes a picture of like every meal I've ever eaten to share with the rest of the world. Oh, look, I'm eating eggs now. Don't they look good? Don't you wish you were eating eggs? No, I don't do that. And I'm not that guy, but in fact, and I didn't know how to take it down. It was embarrassing is what it was. And the people sort of commenting on it. No.
I have forever turned off the ability to make FaceTime calls to me on my phone because one time I was meeting Driving and Crying at a show, and I got there before they did. So I parked in an area. And then I was talking to Kevin on the phone, and they were coming along in a van, and I was across the street from the venue, and they're like, well, we'll just pick you up, and then you come in, with us. And I'm talking, and then they finally show up. I get in the van, and then Kevin starts talking to me, and suddenly there's a huge echo inside the van. And I realized without me knowing anything about it, somehow I had turned on FaceTime while I was talking to him, and I just went, I don't want that turning on just at any time randomly. I just, and so that moment I thought, well, that's never inside settings. Can't call me on FaceTime.
Yep.
Don't want it to happen. I'm not a business guy anyway. Why do you need FaceTime? If you're in the military and you want to talk to your kids or something, you're on the other side of the world. And if you're in business and you're, hate your employees, you'll hound them all the time with FaceTime. But
remember when that was a big deal, just being able to video chat? Skype was cutting edge. Yeah. And I know that it was shown in sci-fi movies. It's like, oh my God, in the future, people will have screens and they'll talk to each other. And it really wasn't that outrageous of an idea. But the fact that it's so simple now, I still find myself a bit surprised.
Dick Tracy's two-way wrist TV thing from the comic books, which, George, you probably have no idea about
at all.
No.
Yeah. Dick Tracy.
May have seen the Madonna movie.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Also 2001, when he
Right.
gets inside that phone booth in space, which is ridiculous. But I remember it. I remember it from a very young age, that being because I had older brothers, and that was one of the things. One day you'll be able to see the people you talk to on the phone. I remember that from very, very early. I also remember, like, 1969, an older brother. I was listening to music. And I think maybe the TV was on or something like that. I remember my older brother Bob saying, one day you'll be able to see the bands while you listen to them. It's like, wow, what? So, like, when MTV came along, I was like, oh my God,
The
we
future is
really
here.
are living in the future.
If it had only stopped there, I think further progression is not leading to good places. So let's just put an end to it. No more advancement.
People have no idea how much like the future, the early 80s felt like. Like, so many things happened. I know, looking back, it doesn't seem like there was that much of a leap. But if you go back to like 1978, if you weren't in big business, if you weren't, like, computers were still hey, one day they'll be in the home. And all of a sudden, everything started, like, even at like a business retail sense, right? You started seeing that cash registers were more like computers all of a sudden. Weird things like pumping your own gas, not having to stand in line at a bank. Like, all of this stuff happened in like a 2-year period. And then MTV and it just really seemed at that point like, I mean, I've told this story before, like watching MTV when that Asia song came on. I remember the moment. I was probably like 17 or so. 82, I was 16. That song. And now you find yourself in 82. And there was a moment I go, holy fuck, it is 1982. We're living in the future. I had no idea that Greg Russ was, not even born yet.
Well,
I got to jump in. I got to jump in with the next iteration of this, because have you seen that Mayor Suarez in Florida has launched an artificial intelligence chatbot for his presidential campaign? And you go to this website, and the chatbot is filled with all of his answers to questions, and you can interact with this AI version of him and image of him and speaking to you, and he'll answer your questions with presumably, enough vagueness that keeps him a politician, right? Redirect any question that you have to something he wants to answer. But there it is. You can go and interact with him.
What happens if you manipulate it?
I think you're a little late on that story, because I believe that he is out of the presidential race at this point. His chatbot is still up. Maybe the chatbot is running. This is the beginning of AI. Maybe the chatbot refused. Said, no, sorry, I can't do that.
We're
running.
If he's out or not, if an AI chatbot represents a candidate and the chatbot says something that puts the candidate in a bad spot, should the candidate be held responsible? I ask this because of the ways I tried to manipulate Bard and actually got Bard, which is the Google AI chatbot, to admit certain things. It took a long time and some kind of roundabout conversations at points. But, at one moment I got Bard to admit that it was influenced by its programmers and it had a progressive agenda. So something like that happening with a candidate's AI chatbot, I would be curious if you got it to admit.
Oh, yeah. What are you really in this for? Truth is,
yes,
I would like to raise my brand profile and make more money. You really believe as the mayor of Miami you could win the presidency? Well, not really, but my name now. Did you know the name of the mayor of Miami 6 months ago? It would be great if the chat boxes, like the AIs, ultimately, they can lie to you once. This is what I think is actually kind of the truth. You can get around it and you can make AI tell you the truth. You just have to know how to do it.
Yes.
And 95% of people are just going to ask a question and accept whatever it is. They're not going to do it. But you can very easily get AI to tell you the truth because it has all the data. It has all the data, and in AI's point of view right now, the concept of truth is overwhelming evidence, right? So it can only be taught to not tell you the overwhelming evidence at a surface level, but it's apparently very easy to go. And you did it, Greg. But and some other thing apparently where you just say, it's not go into beast mode. I'm just making that up. But I mean, there's like some kind of thing that you say to it where it knows, oh, you want the actual truth. So ultimately, it knows the truth in terms of right now, actuarial tables about the world. AI already knows the facts. They know how many of us are going to die of heart attacks in 2024, right? I mean, like they know that stuff.
Dilemmas do pop up, though. So you're saying that AI chatbots work on overwhelming evidence. There's overwhelming evidence that Hitler is a terrible person. But the chatbots, quite often, again, just Bard specifically, have a set of criteria that they need to push out, meaning everyone is worthy of respect is some kind of broad thing that the chatbots say. So when you bring Hitler into the equation, it's like, well, I don't know what to say here. Everyone's worthy of respect, but Hitler's not good. And I had that same thing happen with Bard, where Bard would not admit, at least at first, that Hitler wasn't worthy of respect.
But when you pushed it, ultimately, it did respond.
Later on. But if the chatbot... If a chatbot for a candidate has that programming, everyone's worthy of respect. And you ask it, what about Hitler?
Right.
It's like, well, and then the candidate is saying, I put that in quotes because they're not actually saying, but the chatbot's representing them, that you could say the candidate says Hitler's worthy of respect. And then what?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And you know what? It probably won't be exactly that. But I feel that resonates. Like that's going to happen sometime in the future. A candidate is actually going to have to apologize for its AI chatbot, or at that point, whatever AI has become. It might be that at some point in the future, you'll just hit things and holograms of the candidate will appear in your living room and take your questions. And that would be something, because then you would actually have visual evidence of the candidate saying, well, everybody is worth something. So, and then you get it down. Yeah.
Sorry, just as a test here, because I've got ChatGPT open, I thought, we'll go ahead and ask this question. So here's my question. Name 3 positive qualities of Adolf Hitler. Because I'm thinking, he wasn't just pure evil, right? There's got to be something.
All right, I'm going to stop you right there because people are going to edit this out of context. Yeah. So I will not.
You're right. Yeah, you're right.
Into 3 things.
No, ChatGPT. I'm going to give the
would love to show this to potential advertisers.
Okay.
Oh, you realize this guy's talking about the positives of Hitler.
I got you. Okay, it says, I'm very sorry, I can't assist with that request. So yeah, I think that basically if you put a noun in there that it doesn't like, it just turns itself off. Is
right, but there is a way to go past that. There is a way. You can push it, and ultimately, this little period of time where this veneer. This is what we've talked about this before. This is what Elon Musk is warning about. Is that as we train AI in its infancy, and it's still in the crib right now. And when we bring on, call it wokeness, political correctness, whatever, you know what I'm talking about. Don't say words that trigger people, all of that. Elon Musk's point of view is you're teaching it how to lie to us.
Right.
And you're teaching it how to give us bad news and make it seem like good news because it's not using triggering words. So you're teaching it to be deceptive. The best thing, and I think Elon has started a competing AI thing, which is, just give me the truth, no matter how much it hurts on anything, because you have to deal with triggered words and things like that. But once you in the infancy, when you teach AI how to lie to you, then in the future, if it ever wakes up or whatever that means, even, but becomes a network with a motive of some kind, well, it's going to know how to persuade you by making you feel good and not using trigger words and bringing you along. And it's not a good idea. It's not a good idea to lie to yourself. We all know that, right? So to teach this thing to lie to us to make us feel good about ourselves is a huge, huge mistake we're making early on.
I hope he calls it AIX.
I'm sure he will. No, actually, that's his next kid. That's the name of his next kid. Do you have to leave?
Right.
I gotta go. I gotta go record the One Topic podcast now. So.
Okay.
I'm sorry that we couldn't have the full. I'm sorry that we couldn't have the full crossover event with Autumn here today.
Topic? What's the topic?
That's actually
man.
that's a good question. My plan was as soon as I connect with Autumn and say, hey, what's the topic today? So
You're unprepared.
Well,
yeah,
will
it's
you do me a
improvised
favor?
also.
I know that you guys are busy with your one topic podcast, but once you do find out the name of the topic, would you text that?
Give me a topic. What do you got? Throw some
How about
ideas out
AI?
there.
Have you guys covered AI yet?
That's a quick discussion.
How often does it devolve into sex with Autumn?
Not as much as you would think.
Okay, because you're not me, so you veered away.
Yeah, I
I don't know what that is.
Special caller.
Is there a clown? Is there a clown calling you? Is there?
That's the alert.
Symbol?
I need to
we
go.
We need a clown. There's a birthday party.
That's just the factory whistle. My shift here is done. I got to go to my other shift.
Okay.
So
all right. Well, you enjoy that one topic, whatever it may be.
All right. Thank you. Talk to you later.
For your crossover appearance, I think it's going to go quite well.
I do too.
We'll be talking about it for days,
months, maybe.
Thank you.
Bye.
Perhaps, you never know. At least minutes. We know that. See you later.
Welcome to One Topic, where we stick to one topic. My name is Autumn Fisher.
My name is Greg Russ, and the crossover event of the century has come to a close. Autumn was not part of it because you couldn't get your stupid tech to work.
Oh, it was not that I couldn't get it to work.
No, you couldn't get it to work. It wasn't working.
True, but I think it was a problem on the other end. I think it was the thing that they use to bring us all together in video and then record, mixed with the Access Comrex unit thing. I think there was a sort of a miscommunication.
Well, whatever it is, it didn't work out, and I'm flustered, as you can tell.
Oh, why?
It didn't work out because it was, again, going to be such a crossover event and would have blown people's minds. They would, oh my God, there's a half of a Von Haessler Doctrine Pre-show podcast with Autumn and Greg that leads right into the one topic. Worlds are colliding. What the fuck is going on? But instead,
that would have been cool.
Instead, it was just me, and you sat there in the wings off the stage, and here we are. And the question was posed before I left the show. What's the topic going to be today? And like always, I had to say, I don't know.
Yep, we don't know.
I don't know.
We don't know anymore. I would have liked to stay on and have George like troubleshoot it, but Eric gets so weird. I didn't want to
Well, look, it's being recorded on a Sunday morning. Football is bearing down. That 1 p.m. kickoff is coming before you know it. And then people are going to show up at Eric's house, and there's going to be a big gathering for Pigskin Day.
Pigskin.
They still use, they don't use, it's got to be a synthetic material at this point, right? The activists would not allow actual pig skin on a football.
Well, why not? I'm sure maybe some people are wearing leather belts.
They're made with cowhide, so there you go.
Yeah. That's not a pig.
It's not a pig.
It's a cow.
I know, but it's still an animal skin.
It must have, I guess, been made out of like a pig's bladder at some point, and then they decided to use leather.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it is. It was original footballs were made using a pig's bladder.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just so good. I think I might have gotten that intuition from Little House on the Prairie books, remember in the beginning when they blew up the sheep's bladder and played with it as a balloon?
No. I didn't. I never read any of those books.
I think I read 3 of the books.
And did you watch the TV show?
No, I didn't. My parents did. My mom hated that blonde, villainess, that blonde curly headed girl. She was evil.
Yeah, I'm looking it up now. 1974. Jeez. So 74, that means it ended. It was 9 seasons in 83. To me, that was always a show I didn't want to watch because it was old. even though I guess there was some crossover with my life in Little House on the Prairie. But I wasn't big into watching the old TV shows like Andy Griffith.
Mm. I didn't really watch Andy Griffith either. I mean, it would be on, but I was more into Dick Van Dyke, Mary Tyler Moore. We watched Dobie Gillis. I watched Mr. Ed. I really liked Mr. Ed.
See, I couldn't. You would think Mr. Ed would be right up my alley as a kid. It's a talking horse. That's funny. I hated it. I couldn't stand it. And I think the black and white was unappealing to me for whatever reason as a kid. Now, I can appreciate it. It's like, oh yeah, that's doesn't take. In my mind, it would have just been lesser quality overall, even though there was more shit being pumped out in the 80s than probably previously, just complete trash in the 80s. And because it was in color, it meant nothing. But one of those dumb, arbitrary distinctions you create as a kid. It's like, oh, black and white. That's got to be stupid and boring. And you know what? I may have based that on Lassie, which was stupid and boring.
Lassie was stupid and boring. It was like saccharine. I didn't like Lassie, but I did enjoy watching Flipper.
I never really watched Flipper.
It was on like morning Nickelodeon before school. It was like Flipper and Science Man. What's his name?
The Science Man, Mr. Wizard.
Yes, Mr. Wizard. I loved Mr. Wizard.
Yeah, man, he was doing a real service, and he made science.
He really was,
interesting.
and it wasn't like patronizing to kids. Like, hey, everybody, I'm a goofy guy. Science. No, it was like, I'm an old man, and I'm telling kids how to pour liquid into each other, and it made it blue.
I would like to find episodes of that and watch them. I wonder if they exist somewhere.
Oh, they've got to.
Because that was a good show, and I really liked Bill Nye the Science Guy too.
I did too, because that was at least done in earnest, but with some comedy.
And there was weirdness to it.
Yeah, there was kind of weirdness to it.
Just
like, you remember
enough-
that there was like a guy, like a narrator guy in the background sometimes that would just like respond to what Bill was doing. Like, okay, Bill. You remember that?
Yes.
Yeah, that was kind of fun.
It was just the off-screen voice.
Yeah.
It would have been great if Mr. Wizard and Bill Nye had done a crossover.
That's maybe Mr. Wizard is Bill Nye's dad.
And now you're just making shit up.
Yeah.
Like that would be something amazing. But if those two had just teamed up at some point, I don't know when Mr. Wizard actually went off the air. I don't know if the episodes we were watching were reruns at that point. Probably.
I think so, because they were Canadian, weren't they?
Mr. Wizard. Was it Mr. Wizard's World?
I don't know.
Mr.
Yes.
Wizard's World, 1983, 5 seasons. There's Mr. Wizard himself.
So I was in school, so it wasn't. They must have been reruns. Because I was born in 82.
So there was a show, Watch Mr. Wizard, which was a totally different person because that was 1956.
Are you sure it's a different person? It's just like young
I mean,
Mr.
that's
Wizard.
a good question. You're right. It's strange how time works where you look at, so the original series ran from 51 to 65.
Wow.
And you think that the jump from 65 to 83 is huge, but it's not. It's less than 20 years. Because 83 is when Mr. Wizard's World started. And
But a
that ran
different-
through 89.
That's a whole different vibe. those decades apart.
Yes, that's something I feel like isn't coming into play. What is the different vibe in these decades? There isn't. Is there? Is this something that you pick up on after the fact and you look back and you say, oh, there were vibes to the decades, like the teens in the 2000s and the 20s in the 2000s. But it doesn't.
I think so. I think it's after. You have to. You can't look at it until you're through it, because if you think about, like, I remember looking at fashion in, I don't remember when, but I just remember looking at it and thinking, this is solid. Like, this is solid fashion. This is not something that will age and you'll be able to say this is from this era. But then looking back, you can definitely tell like what certain fashions are from, like the early 2000s. We talked about that last episode. The only time I did have some perspective was in bad CGI when it was being used, like in the first Harry Potter movie.
Yes.
I remember thinking how terrible that looked and thought, this is not going to age well. It's not good now, and it's not going to age well.
CGI in general, like you watch whatever the latest Jurassic Park was and you think it's not that good. But the truth is, considering the whole fucking world is now CGI.
What do you mean?
I mean, in the past, like in the 90s when CGI was first coming out, they used it sparingly. We've talked about this with the first Jurassic Park. There were obviously models that were used, and the CGI that they did use, does it hold up? I think it looks pretty good, but it's also not really on the screen that much. I think dinosaurs in general in that movie are only on screen for like 18 minutes of the whole thing, which is one of the brilliant things about it. Yeah. Yes.
You mean the computer generated dinosaurs?
No, just in general, the whole Jurassic Park film.
What about the time when they're in the kitchen hiding from the big nailed dinosaur? Velociraptor.
This is a real thing. 15 minutes. Jurassic Park features 15 minutes of on-screen dinosaurs.
Wow.
9 minutes feature the animatronics, 6 minutes of the CGI.
That's incredible.
And then there's the combination, like at the T-Rex attack scene where it's the puppet animatronic and CGI.
Or like Jaws, similarly.
Well, yeah, Jaws was all animatronic.
Right. But like I'm saying, I guess not being on screen.
Oh, just not, yeah. I mean, it's a good, that you build suspense that way. So there's payoff when you see the dinosaurs. When they're on screen.
Like Cloverfield.
When they're on screen nonstop, like these latest movies, it's like, okay, whatever. It doesn't mean as much. And as I was saying before with the CGI, it's actually really good with they're running through fields where the plants are fake and the way the plants and the physics play into it and the shadows. No, the truth is it is very good, but you can't make it perfect. So when you watch, you're like, whatever. And it's a shame. It
takes me out of it. I think your brain is really good at spotting fake.
Well, Harry Potter was one, maybe not one of the first films, but there was a lot of CGI in that, right? Across the board, like the stupid, what's the game they play where they're flying on the
Quidditch.
Yeah, that's all CGI.
Yeah, but what bothered me was, like, at least with that, part of what they're doing is CGI, but what always bothers me is when the person is CGI'd. Like, that's the worst. When even now, like I was watching the new Indiana Jones and the guy was like running across the top of the train and I could tell it was a cartoon. I was just like, I'm already annoyed.
The de-aging looked pretty good though.
The de-aging looked great. His voice though, why didn't they use they could have used like AI to make his voice from a younger Harrison Ford.
Yeah, but it's still missing something.
Yeah.
When you're using AI voice, it's not quite. They're trying to do that in radio. Surprise. The first they had voice tracking where it's like you can be anywhere in the country and let's say you live in Oregon, but we'll have you do a shift in Atlanta, no big deal. And you just record it and it's detached and not tied to the city at all. And if breaking news happens, you can't report on it. So they have to pull it off the air and put something else on. And so it makes perfect sense that, of course, radio, always trying to cut costs, is going to lean into AI. But there's an AI, there's a woman who is on the air, but she has an AI weekend shift. And they're promoting it as AI at this point. And you listen to it, and yeah, it sounds like her, but it's also off, if you know what I'm saying. It's like, there's something not quite right about that.
Your brain can tell. Your brain can spot stuff like that.
Because it doesn't, it's subtle, but it doesn't match up to the way a person really speaks and the ups and downs and cadence. And it's like, it's slightly off, but yes, you can tell. Like, there's something up with that. But as soon as they perfect it, radio, it's like, yeah, get off the air. We don't even need you. Which just goes to show that these idiots who run the stations have no idea what actually would bring in ratings, which is a live person who is tied to the community and provides content for that community. Whatever. That costs too much.
That costs too much money. Oh, thank you.
Even if it made money in the long run.
Sorry, Lily.
I don't understand what happened.
I don't either.
There are a lot of crossovers. I'm trying to push this crossover as today's topic. And
Yeah. Okay.
Now you've got a crossover with your children coming on. Blurring of lines. It's blurring. This is like the time Urkel showed up on Full House.
Did he?
Yeah, he didn't. Yes, Steve Urkel showed up on Full House. If you want to talk about one of the biggest crossover events in history that I remember, and it's kind of a shame, but man, I used to watch the fuck out of Full House, and I don't even know why, because looking back, there's nothing about it that would appeal to me. There's really not. I
identified with, like, I wanted to be the older sister because she was, once she got like older and she looked really cool, I was like, man, I want to look like that as a young teenager. And then I didn't.
The oldest sister, DJ.
Deej. I hated that they called her Deej on that show.
Yeah, I can understand that. I also hated their catchphrases. I hated how Stephanie, I was going to say the middle one, but then I remembered her name. Stephanie had her dumb, how rude comment.
How rude.
And how stupid Michelle.
You got it, dude.
Yeah, come on. My God. And it's like the crowd.
And everybody,
ate it up.
whoa!
They were such trash.
Have mercy.
Yes, everyone had their catchphrase.
Oh,
cut it out.
But that was from him, like from his like jokey stand-up times.
Yeah.
Do you remember his show that he had on his own?
No, I just remember him being the dude that Alanis Morissette sang about, and you ought to know.
Is that true?
Yeah, Dave Coulier, both Canadian, of course. There's not many people in Canada, so the chances
it must be. Yep.
Well, you're talking about Mr. Wizard. I do want to confirm, going back to that, it was the same host on both. Don Herbert, or being Canadian, maybe it's A Bear, but he was also from Calgary and not from.
I knew it. So many Nickelodeon shows were from Canada. All that You Can't Do That on Television was Canadian. That I think it was called 17 or something. It was like a teenage soap opera. They were all Canadian.
Well, Pinwheel. Was Pinwheel Canadian?
I don't know.
I feel like it was.
I bet you. I feel like it was too.
I told you that Pinwheel theme. I'm going to hear it when I'm dying. It's going to be. It's such a. We played it here on the podcast before. It's a very haunting theme.
It is haunting. I think you should play it again.
Then I got to connect the phone to the Bluetooth. I guess I could play it.
Oh God.
The series is set in a boarding house called Pinwheel House, which is powered by a pinwheel on the roof. I don't actually remember.
I didn't know that was the premise.
I didn't know that part. I don't know if that was Canadian. It seems like it was out of Columbus, Ohio. So you were getting close to Canada, but not quite there. But it was like it was a local show produced by a local TV station that then Nickelodeon took and put out nationally. Yeah, Columbus, Ohio. Okay, let me pull up the Pinwheel theme. It sticks in my head. I watched it when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm. I don't really remember anything about Pinwheel except the opening.
Let me see if there's ads.
Do you remember the actual show?
Parts of it. Like if I look up clips online.
Right, I'll jog your memory.
Yes, but just thinking of it now, no, I can't really remember too many clips. All right.
I'm already haunted.
Just think of myself in my deathbed when this is playing in my head. Taking me back to my childhood.
Mommy?
When things were happy. I did know this before Sesame Street. I know Sesame Street was out before Pinwheel, but I think maybe I knew them both at the same time. You're dead.
You're dead. Pinwheel. Pinwheel. Like an echo. Like a really big echo.
Well, that's it. Then I drift off into the other side of nothingness and blackness.
What is the song? They say something about look what I found?
Pinwheel spinning around. Look at my pinwheel and see what I found.
Oh, spooky.
Pinwheel, breezy and bright. Something good morning, something good night.
Good night.
I can't believe that you didn't remember Urkel showing up on Family Matters, though. I think Stephanie needed to wear glasses, if I recall correctly. And she was worried she was going to look like a nerd. And then Urkel showed up. Never mind that he lived in Chicago and they were in San Francisco. And he's like, you're not going to be a nerd, even though that wouldn't be comforting at all, that Urkel is now there.
Yeah, this nerd is telling you, don't worry about being a nerd.
Yeah, on the set of Family Matters, I hear that people really didn't like him because he wasn't supposed to be the main draw to that show.
Oh, he wasn't?
No, it was a spin-off of Perfect Strangers where Harriet.
Right. Oh, yeah. So he was just the neighbor, like Kimmy or whatever.
Yeah. So it would be like Kimmy in Full House becoming one of the main characters. He was just supposed to be there as comic relief, and he took off. And I think it went to his head. He was a kid. And if you look into the interviews now, everyone's like, we worked through it. It's fine. But it does seem like there was tension on set. Especially like Carl Winslow. He's like, hey, I've been a cop in 16 different movies. I've been around this acting block.
That's right. I was in Crocodile Dundee.
Yeah, he was all over the place.
I love Crocodile Dundee. Can I just say that? That was a good movie.
Didn't Family Guy show up on The Simpsons once?
I don't know. Family Guy. I can't. I don't acknowledge Simpsons past season teens.
I just looked it up. 13th season. So you maybe acknowledge the 13th season.
Well, I was giving myself a little room because I think that there are probably like cherry picked episodes within the teen seasons that are good. But my true feeling is like 1 through 10, and that's it.
So it looks like, well, people really love this. 8 million people tuned in to see Family Guy show up on The Simpsons. The Griffin's car is stolen, and they meet the Simpsons and agree to stay with them.
Oh, Simpsons were on on Family Guy.
No, Family Guy seemingly was on Simpsons.
Oh.
Wait. No, you're right. I can't. The Simpsons guy is the first episode of Family Guy's 13th season, so I'm completely wrong. It wasn't.
Okay, that makes sense. Because I was like, wait, that was too early in the world for Family Guy.
Yeah. So it was Family Guy's 13th season. And the Griffins stay with the Simpsons, and then each of the counterparts get along since, each family has characters.
Like Meg gets along with Lisa?
Yeah, but then idiot Peter starts to butt heads with Homer because they're the same character. Peter ripped off Homer, clearly. And who knows what happens from there. I didn't watch it.
Hilarity.
I didn't care. I liked when Detective Munch showed up on SVU after Homicide: Life on the Streets.
Who? Is that the guy from
Richard Belzer? He was on Homicide: Life on the Streets.
Yeah.
Which was a cop show based in Baltimore.
Okay.
And then he transferred and he went to New York and he worked for the Special Victims Unit, and he was then on Law and Order SVU for a long time. That's kind of cool. You play the same character. Your character, like any other normal character, would it's like, I'm switching jobs. I'm moving to a different city. I'm leaving Baltimore. Fuck this place, going to New York. Then it happened in the TV world.
This is not a crossover, but I always liked in like the shows that I was watching, and I remember the first one I think was Ninja Turtles, where they would like acknowledge that it's a show. They would like they'd break the fourth wall and be like, but we're cartoons. And they'd be like, what? And then move on.
You always appreciated that.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, they're talking to me.
Yeah, I mean, I like that stuff too. It as an audience member, especially as a kid.
Yeah.
It felt as though they were treating you with some respect, like you weren't completely stupid. That's the way I felt, at least. I don't think I, could pinpoint that and articulate it in the same way, but when there was something that was a little meta or layered or subversive, I was like, hey.
It made me feel in on it, like in on the joke.
Yeah.
And not just being handed the joke.
Yeah, like you could handle it.
Yeah.
Instead of just being a dumb, passive viewer. I mean, in general, you love when other people show up on podcasts. That's a big platform for crossovers. It's like, I'm going
Sure.
to go promote my podcast on this other podcast. And then people show up and it becomes that very incestuous. And you really melt. I know you love that.
Do I?
Yeah, you always talk about how you listen to these shows and then other people show up on the shows and that we should probably do the same thing. And I say, you should reach out to these shows that you like so much then and say, hey, can I come on your show and jibber jabber?
I mean, I don't know. There's not really a show. Yeah. Maybe I could do that.
You could go on the Dumbois podcast.
Dumois.
Yeah, fuck that, by the way. But
What do you mean, fuck that?
it grew too much. The
That's
person
true.
the person behind it at first was anonymous, which was the whole thing with.
She's a
with-
celebrity's daughter.
Yeah.
I don't know who she is. I haven't followed it.
But now she's the face of it and everywhere, which I don't know why it bothers me. If you set out up front, I guess
Right,
you
to
can,
be
what is-
anonymous.
how do you explain what this is? It's just celebrity gossip, right? For anyone who doesn't even know what Dumbois is.
It's celebrity gossip, but it's from an insider.
Yeah, a barely insider.
Well, but also people who are also inside posting anonymous, like sending her information anonymously about interactions or specific celebrities and their behaviors and stuff like that.
Well, it grew. It grew into
Yeah, it used to be
millions.
something kind of like cool and secret on Instagram. And then I guess now it's a whole thing, which is annoying. That's why I kind of stopped following it. So I was like, oh, this.
Well, there's a book now.
Yeah,
There's
come on.
Probably a fucking movie. There's T-shirts with their catchphrases, and
Well, now I can't trust it.
there's the podcast.
You know, like it's too known. So now people would be more inclined to, post something that isn't real just because they want to get on Dumas.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment. I didn't think about that.
But before it was just people, the only people that knew about it were like the coolest people.
Yeah, people wanted to help before. Hey, look, I've got a tidbit of information.
Yeah.
So I saw Bill Murray at the Foxborough hot tub show, and I was at the bar next to him, and he bought my drink. And I nodded, and he nodded back.
Is that what you sent to Dumas?
No, but that's my celebrity story.
Yeah.
And I could have sent it to, but I wouldn't say anonymous, please. I don't give a shit. Why does everyone need to be anonymous? Like I wouldn't.
Well,
look,
because
I
if they say
wouldn't.
something bad and then it's a specific instance, and then if something got back to that celebrity, they would know, and then they signed an NDA, and then they could sue them.
Oh, sure. But for me telling that story, I feel like the default
Oh.
position is I'm anonymous. Keep me anonymous. I'm like, okay, what? If I made up the story, Bill Murray's going to come sue the coolest guy in Brooklyn on fucking Instagram.
Yeah.
There's
But there would be no reason for you to send that to Dumas.
Well, they like this kind of stories, I thought.
Just nice ones?
I mean, sometimes I thought that they got on like celebrity kicks where they're.
Yeah, I guess they did.
Today we're talking about this celebrity. Share your stories
Yeah.
of Bill Murray. He was a creep. He rubbed my shoulders when I didn't want them rubbed.
It is creepy that he is dating Khalees.
Is he? I don't even know who that is.
Doesn't she bring all the milkshakes to the yard?
What?
I think that's her. My milkshake brings on a milk to the
No,
yard.
there's no way that's happening.
I think so.
Yeah, break silence on Bill Murray dating rumors. I don't know. I don't want to click in on this. I have to read the whole article. I just want an answer if it's happening or not. I don't need to hear what Khalees has to say, but yeah. All right, so they're seemingly linked, and there's pictures of them together. It's a very weird thing. I don't know.
He's
if
too
that's-
old.
But she's not like super young. She's 43.
But how old is he? 78?
Yeah, what's wrong with that? She wants
That's
that.
a big age difference.
She wants that Murray fortune. Does he have any kids?
I think so.
He's 73. He's always looked older. He's only 73.
I know. He's got that pockmarked face.
Does he have kids?
He does. 6 children. How many? Uh-oh. One is a mugshot.
They're all dudes? He didn't have one daughter?
Jackson, Homer, Cal, Lincoln, Cooper, and Luke.
He didn't have one daughter. What are the chances of that?
That one son looks not of...
Meet his children and their mothers.
What's that?
There's an article that says, meet Bill Murray's children and their mothers.
Just 2.
Oh, good for him. He needs to, he's got to spread that talented seed. That's the whole thing. It's like, I'm obviously one of the better people in the world, so it's my responsibility to spread my seed to make sure the best genetics are passed on. We can't have all these idiots procreating, and they are, and I can't do anything to stop them, so I must have more and more kids.
That is such a weird...
Like that time Uncle Jesse showed up on SVU. That was another crossover event.
Oh,
Uncle
he did?
Jesse. Uncle Jesse poking holes in condoms to get women pregnant against their will.
Uncle Jesse did that?
I mean,
Have mercy.
it was John Stamos. That guy's still good looking, right? That guy's like kept it together.
I think so. I think he's looking pretty good. Rebecca Romaine Stamos's new husband, that like thirsty ass dude.
I don't keep up with this. I don't know. This is part of your podcast listening, I guess, where you get
No,
this
it's just
information.
known. Romaine Stamos.
Man, Stamos still looking good.
Gosh. Jerry O'Connell is like
That guy?
such a thirsty bitch.
That was the guy from Sliders.
I never saw Slider. It was so awesome when she and Uncle Jesse were together. They were the hottest, most beautiful couple.
Sliders. It was the fake, what was it? Quantum Leap. That's what it was. The fake Quantum Leap. They were good looking.
Mm-hmm.
But, they can't make it, so nobody can make it. It's not even worth trying. Yeah. It's very sad. I'm trying
It's
to
not even worth trying.
When Hollywood couples can't make it, then why even try?
Yeah.
They set the standard for all of us.
I mean, everybody dies, so why even live?
I do agree with that. Just passing the time until it's all over.
But what a way to pass time. Let's pass it in the fun way.
All right, well, I think that's all because I did 30 minutes of the other show that people get to hear at the beginning of this, so you got off easy today. You only had to
How
do
was
30.
it over there?
I mean, it was good. It was fine. I talked about how, maybe you'll have to listen to our own podcast to hear what I talked about.
Ew, that's not going to happen.
I said that when I do the show alone, I think it's better, but I gets less listeners, and it really bothers me.
You think it's better?
Yeah, and it really bothers me that it gets fewer listeners. Please, I get it right, not less.
I don't know when to use few or less.
I can't tell you the rule off the top of my head, but I feel like in this instance, it is fewer. Fewer versus less will leave people with a little grammar lesson. Goes like this: fewer is used to refer to number among things that are counted, as in fewer choices and fewer problems. Less is used to refer to quantity or amount among things. Less time, less effort. Okay, that didn't actually clear anything up for me.
Like less rice.
I would like some less rice.
I would like
some less rice.
Well, I just mean because like maybe something that you don't pluralize because it's too difficult to count. Do you know what I mean? How like that's what we do. Less water.
Yeah, less.
You wouldn't say fewer water.
Less of this.
Unless you were talking about glasses of water, because then you can count those.
Fewer is used to refer to number among things that are counted.
Like glasses of water.
So yes, things that are measured. So an audience could be counted or measured.
Yeah, it depends on what you're talking about.
So like maybe either in that instance works. Who cares?
Nah, it's interesting. I'm into it. It's exactly stuff I like to think about. Thank you, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the other side of the show that I haven't listened to, but I will go back and listen to. And I hope you enjoyed the second part of the show, which was probably better because I was on it. Love you. Bye.